19-year-old Robert Wadlow, height 8 feet 7 inches, the tallest person in recorded history, chatting with a friend after appearing at a charity event in Omaha, Nebraska, April 1, 1937. 20 years ago, O.J. Simpson told the jury that the gloves used to murder Nicole Brown don't fit. June 15, 1995. Macy's department store detectives posing for a photograph with their backs turned so as not to reveal their identity. 1948, they posed as shoppers and spied on potential shoplifters. A motorist stops to get directions from a state trooper in New Mexico. 1939, that's not just any motorist, license plate reads USCCC and Department of the Interior, so he worked for the Civilian Conservation Corps. SS officer initiation. 1938, the Nazis really had a knack for creating grand and imposing structures and events. Things like this with the lighting and huge pillars at the back. Not to mention their plans for enormous buildings/museums, Führer Museum pictured, in the future and the Reichsadler grandly placed on the back wall of halls. It's got a really eerie but grandiose feeling. Members of the University College Boat Club in Oxford pose for a photograph in early 1960s, Stephen Hawking with handkerchief. University College is a constituent college of the University of Oxford. The photograph was taken in Radcliffe Quad, the second quad of the college. This is trench warfare. Photo taken by an official British photographer during World War I. 1917, World War I trench warfare was a total nightmare. To put it in perspective, the Battle of Verdun during World War I was one of the most costly battles in human history, the death toll almost reaching 1 million in that battle alone. Candid moment in time showing Sean Connery signing a coconut for a little Jamaican fan on the set of Dr. No in 1962. Connery was known to sometimes write out quotes from his films to accompany his autographs. Bond, James Bond, for instance, or shaken, not stirred, followed by his name. Gay men smashed the windows of San Francisco City Hall in 1979, with thousands rioting after Dan White received a verdict of voluntary manslaughter for the killing of Harvey Milk. Private Henry Black Death Johnson, the latest recipient of the American Medal of Honor, presented for his bravery and gallantry in combat. 1918, while on guard duty on May 14, 1918, Private Johnson came under attack by a large German raider party which may have numbered as many as 24 German soldiers. Pablo Picasso does long exposure light painting. 1949, the man who introduced Pablo Picasso into long exposure light painting was called John Mealy. A white girl follows a black girl down the slide at Thomas J. Sem School in New Orleans during recess on September 7, 1962, which was the second day of integrated classes. Colonel Anthony Joseph Drexel Biddle, hand-to-hand combat expert, ordering trainee Marines to attempt to kill him with bayonets, and disarming them all. 1943. At the 50th anniversary of the Battle of Gettysburg, Union and Confederate veterans shake hands. 1913. Vladimir Lenin's last photo. He had had 3 strokes at this point and was completely mute. 1923. The speech where Adolf Hitler declared war on the USA in 1941. In 1941, the Germans had taken most of Europe and were making progress against England and Russia. Their one-time greatest enemy, France, had gone down quickly, and the U.S. A war veteran sells matches on the street in Canterbury, Kent, England. 1930. Howard University student portrait of the calculus class in the early 1900s. Charles Ebbets shooting his famous photograph, lunch atop a skyscraper, while perching on the 69th floor of the GE building. 1932. Joseph Ambrose, an 86-year-old World War I veteran, attends the Dedication Day parade for the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in 1982, holding the flag that covered the casket of his son, who was killed in the Korean War. When they realized women were using their sacks to make clothes for their children, flour mills of the 1930s started using flowered fabric for their sacks. 1939. Underworld kingpin Joe the Boss Masuria lies on the floor clutching an ace of spades after he was murdered while playing cards at a restaurant in Coney Island. April 15, 1931. Nazi rally in Germany in 1934. When people ask the question, were all these people Nazis / were they forced to go, etc., I think it's important to remember that Germany had gone through a pretty tough couple of decades, lost the war, huge inflation, ganged up on by other powers in the Treaty of Versailles. So at this time, when there is a leader standing there saying he'll stand up to them, he'll fix the economy, etc., you listen to him and you ignore, perhaps, some of the other things he says. After a few years, with Germany growing, stabilizing, etc., you can see how people bought into it. These rallies were a celebration of German nationalism as opposed to Nazism, at least Nazism as we know it. Albert Einstein's office just as the Nobel Prize-winning physicist left it. This photo was taken hours after Einstein died in Princeton, New Jersey. April 1955. German fraternity mirror selfie. 1912,